So with all of the, as much drinking as went on, a lot of people, do people make moonshine up here?
Oh, they made moonshine,
Like who
straight
did?
corn liquor. I can recollect Uncle Jim used to make it, but you
Si
couldn't bring it
did.
to the house, and Si did, and Uncle Dick's boys.
And money was flowing around here. They
It
would
was,
come and throw the money in the flower bed and get the booze and go.
it wasn't, if Jim was gone, you know, or something, he'd tell them where he's at, and they'd just come. Doc Stanton was one of them.
So Jim made moonshine when I lived here?
Yeah.
Where'd he make it at?
He made it down yonder on the neighbor knows.
But he didn't bother us with
They didn't bring it to the house or anything. But he made liquor down yonder on the neighbor.
it. And he bootlegged in Cumberland all the time.
And Si made moonshine too?
Yes, I made moonshine.
Jim had pockets sewn in his clothes, you know, up here under his arm, down his leg. He put that full of the pint bottles and goes,
Now, he never made that, he got off the side.
but he'd go sell it,
He'd sell it.
make money. And he'd also take a basket of eggs with him too.
Dad never
And
made
put
no
moonshine down the bottom of the
Dad,
basket.
Dad never made no moonshine, and Dad never drank no
Did Uncle Dick make moonshine?
Who?
moonshine. Uncle Dick
Dixon.
made, yeah, Uncle Dick made
Oh yeah, they
moonshine.
drank a lot down there, that's what they,
So what they drank was moonshine mostly.
Mhm.
they was probably all addicted to it. But Uncle Jim wasn't a drinker much.
Jim
He
did.
just sold it.
When was the last that they made up here? The family made?
Lord, I don't have no idea.
Well, I think when he was little.
It's before I was grown.
Sherman Fox made moonshine too. didn't
Oh,
he?
Sherman did down there all the time. He made.
He was married to Janie?
He was
Yeah.
married to Uncle Dick's daughter, Janie. Yeah,
They know how to
Sherman
drink.
made it all the time, and he died from cirrhosis of the liver from drinking.
That stuff is like fire if you put it in your mouth, you know. It would burn a hole in your tongue.
Well, he'd even put lye and hot pepper in it.
But Jim used to cheat on his. He'd pour so much of the liquor out and put something else in it, you know. Man, they almost got him one time. She said she's gonna call police on for bad liquor and
Who?
Uncle Jim.
Who was he selling it
It's
to?
a black woman in Cumberland. Told me about it.
He used to sell it to the engineer on the passenger train.
And he peddled chickens, and that was just a front. The eggs and chickens was something to get him in town.
So he sold a lot of liquor.
And he made money that way.
But he
have-
didn't drink much of it.
No, he didn't
Uh-uh.
drink it. Uh-uh.
So it was just a way to get the
He
corn.
was a businessman.
Yeah.
Turn the corn into money.
Si made the liquor he was selling.
That was just a way to
On
buy,
Barbara.
to have money.
He wasn't over in here.
Did anybody get arrested?
Uh-uh.
He got away.
Oh, Sherman Fox got arrested several times.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of them stayed in jail.
Now he
Well,
made
Jim
this, what is that little thing Sherman made me?
I never
like?
did know he made it. He might have made it from this to that.
Sherman Fox, learned to,
But my dad had nothing to do with stuff like that.
Dad didn't have anything to do with it.
Nothing.
It was on that table a while. What was it? That thing right there, Sherman Fox made me. This little old thing,
That you picked
This
up?
here?
that.
Oh, that.
Now he wove that while he was in Atlanta in contention. And
For
gave,
making moonshine.
and he made a big one went all over the county. Yeah, for making moonshine.
Did Si drink?
Yes.
Way back you did.
Sign Kizzy
Because I
Wolf.
don't remember him until
Well,
like
now,
it
Si
was in
didn't drink
college.
when Kizzy was.
Oh, now look, I used to stay with them when I was little.
Well, I never seen him.
And
drink.
they gave Buford moonshine.
Yeah, but Si
and they
never-
drank moonshine.
I never did
First
see
thing in
Si.
the morning, they get up and take them a dram.
Kizzy would, but I never did see
So I'd take a
Si.
dram too. But I didn't take none.
Well, I never did see Si right there.
And they gave Buford.
And all the
liquor.
time that Si ever stayed here when he was growing up, I know this for a fact, the only time he ever was drunk. He got drunk one time. And somebody come in and told Mom that Si was drunk. And she went out and seen about him. And when he got sober and come in, she said, "Now Si, if you pull this again, you got to leave. I ain't fooling with you." She wasn't allowed.
But she seemed real different than the rest
She
of them.
hated liquor and
Okay.
she
She
hated,
hated it worse than sin.
she hated these women having babies before they married. That's why she's so hard on me, I think, or us, because of that, the way her sisters acted. She was so different from all the family.
How about John? Did he make moonshine?
Why, sure.
Honest to God, I believe he's too sorry to.
He drank it.
He drunk it, but he was too sorry to make moonshine. Uncle John was. He drunk up 2 farms, one on Turkey Fork and one on the head of Big Laurel. And the longest I ever knowed of Uncle John working at the job, he lived on little Laura
Poor little kid.
and carried the mail for about 6 years. That's about all I ever knowed of Uncle
And
John.
Wendell looks a lot like Uncle John.
Yeah, he looks like him.
Did just the men drink moonshine, or did
The only
their aunts
woman
and
I
stuff
ever
drink it
seen
too?
drunk.
Just the men.
No. The only woman I ever seen drunk in my life was Smallfields, Surrey Fields.
Oh, well, that's not one of our family.
No, she was her neighbor though.
Oh, her neighbor, where'd
But-
she live?
She lived on Headline for it.
Oh.
But Smallfields is over here a lot.
You know what? She was a black lady. But she was white. I mean, had black blood, you know?
Her daddy was a colored man and her mother was a white woman. And she was from Virginia, not And she was funny. But she had a son that kinky hair looked like.
All that Aunt Mary went through with them drinking, I don't think she ever did drink.
And Mary was John's?
Mary was
Dick's.
Dick's.
Dick's one.
No, Aunt Mary didn't drink.
And I don't know if Janie did or not. I doubt if she did.
I think she did.
I don't know.
And
But the
everything.
men did. And just about every one of his kids had tragic deaths, you know.
Now Ed never drunk much.
What happened to his baby? Did he, the one's got the picture in the tombstone?
Yeah.
Did he what happened to him and got his leg off?
He was riding a horse and shooting a pistol, and he thought he shot his pistol empty, and it was automatic, you know, and dropped it down there and shot himself in the leg, and they took his leg off and killed him. He was only 24 years old. Now
I had great.
Ed Smith was no more like the rest of Dick's children than daylight and dark. Ed Smith didn't get out and run around.
He didn't.
He stayed at home and done the work at home and helped Mary.
Uh-huh.
And Si's talked to many of the night about how different Ed was, and he was a beautiful man.
And Sam, he must have made liquor, huh? He was drunk so much.
Well, he wasn't, I don't know, I guess Sam may have made liquor, but he
He
wasn't
drunk,
drinking, he wasn't drinking when he got killed.
Well, I didn't say he was, but he was always
How did he
drunk.
get killed?
He got killed in a little old coal bank, digging coal.
He was in the coal mines digging coal.
Yeah, just a coal bank up there, but back of his house.
Well, you wouldn't know what a coal bank was on his
Well,
mine.
it's just a little mine, you know, where you get your house coal. And him and Carlos was getting it out, and Carlos was wheelbarring it out, you know. And he brought the wheelbarrow out and went back to get another load. It was on Friday evening, they was fixing to quit. No, it was on Saturday, and they was fixing to quit. And when he went back, a big rock had fell on his hand. And everybody said it, nobody on earth could have moved that rock. But he got, Carlos lifted that rock off of him, and Estel come running up here. That was Sam's little boy. And Frank and Buell was fixing to go somewhere Gordon. And he come up here crying and said they wanted to come down there to help carry Daddy out. That a rock had fell on him. Well, they got him, they had to hold him down. It hit him and, you know, pushed him like this and just busted his valves. And they held him down and they got him to the hospital and he lived about an hour. And I'd always heard it said, when everybody dying, you could never wash your blood out. And they had on khaki pants. And there was blood all over their legs, you know. We put them in line, everything, we had to burn them, and never could get them.
Really?
That blood was just as plain. Now Goldie can tell you the same thing.
A lot of people died up here.
Now he died in the Lynch Hospital. It was too late for me to go.
Did you tell me once about somebody who was shot up on the mountain? Was that
That
was
was-
Sherman?
That was Charlie. They killed Uncle Dick's baby boy up there. Charlie Smith.
Why?
Well, Charlie and his wife wasn't getting along good, Pearlie. And he was moving to his dad's, you know. And he had Maggie, his little daughter, on the horse with him. And I don't know what deed he had against Charlie. But the man that went to kill him was Charlie's brother-in-law, you know, Benny Turner. And Carlos,
His wife's brother.
his wife's brother. and Carlos was only 12 years old. And his mom and dad made him drunk and told him that if Benny didn't kill Charlie, for him to shoot. Carlos has told me about it many times. And Carlos has had a little old 22 and he just shot. And he accidentally hit Charlie. And it went through him. And I don't know who helped carry him out. We didn't know it at that time. But Pearlie come up here crying and going on, you know, Charlie's wife. And said that Charlie shot her brother.
Said that Charlie shot her brother?
Charlie shot her brother through the leg. And he's laying up there on the mountain, bleeding to death. Benny Turner. So Dad and Art and Uncle Brian went up there and they made stretchers out of poles and things and they carried Benny off. And so they took him over there to Pine Mountain School, and then they wouldn't have him in Pine Mountain School. They took him on somewhere else because they said that Charlie was dying. When they brought him in, they thought he'd go in and kill him. And so they thought Charlie's all right. He got out and walked a little bit up the headline forward. But see, this blood had went to the inside. If it'd been a big pistol, a big gun, they said it wouldn't have killed him. It would have bled on the outside. And they operated, and they got a whole lot of blood out of him, about a gallon. He died on the operating room. And Uncle Jim come by and told him that Charlie was dead. And Benny, and they took Benny on about Pineville, I think, to the hospital. And then he finally come back in this country. And he was working on Turkey Creek from over here, across the hill over here, at Florence's. And they would walk up Brushy Gap there where Mason lives, going over through there to work. And they was McQueen boy was walked up through there with him. Well, Pearlie thought he just left and went to Detroit or something. But people walking across there smelt something and they thought it was a hog. I know my blouse is tore. She's filming you. And so that somebody was walking up through there and they seen a hat out there. A felt hat. And they went and picked that hat up. And there was a skull in it. And that was Benny Turner. At this McQueen boy, shot and robbed. Well, now, he come in and admitted killing me, when they never could have proved it. And they gave him 20 years in penitentiary.
You mean he's gone so long that,
He rotted in just as the bones was there, but his hat was still on the
I
skull.
didn't know that.
And lots of people that going through there, going to Little Otherwood, said they thought it was dead hog. And it was Benny. And he'd been gone nearly 2 years when they found him.
I didn't know that.
Who is that?
Benny Turner, Uncle Dick's,
Charlie's brother.
Charlie married Pearlie Turner, and that was Benny Turner, her brother. And see, he's the one that caused Charlie to be killed. And he was murdered over there.
And then the one that killed Charlie,
Carlos.
he got killed in a bar. In that Blue Goose that we passed
Yes,
yesterday. He got killed in there. Because he was dangerous when he was drinking. He drank a lot.
Dick's kids didn't have a lot of problems.
Dick's
He is
grandson.
drinking.
Huh?
I had
Oh,
more
yes, he
I
was.
didn't know more care to see
He's real
Carlos
mean.
drunk than I would a baby.
My mom didn't even want him there when he was drinking.
Why did she doctor him up when he got in so many
Well,
fights?
she would, but I mean, she was scared of him.
Well, I wasn't
He
afraid
was
of him.
dangerous. He really was.
He wasn't hurt one of us out.
Well, he wouldn't hurt one of us who was in his right mind, but
Well, he never did get that crazy.
who knows what happened drinking.
He come back out of the army and come down there and took care of you.
My mother didn't want none of those people here drinking.
I know she didn't, but if Carlos
She'd
come
rather
drinking, she
scared
was.
to death to see Dick come drinking. She didn't want him there drinking. Drunk.
If
John or none of them.
well, I never did see Dick go.
Oh my goodness.
Now, one time somebody beat Carlos up. I don't know who it was, and he come up here, and Mother's cousin, Elijah Creech, was here. And Carlos been drinking. He's wanting Mom to doctor him up. It's Clyde Holcomb beat him up. And Mom washed his places and doctored on him. He said, Mom said, now Elijah Creech is supposed to be a preacher. And he said, well, I'm gonna roll my britches legs up, and he's in here having, I forgot what the name of that record was he says. And Carlos come in and offered him drinking moonshine. He said, boy, I used to drink it, but I don't drink it now. He got up and danced that tune for Lash. And Carlos was not a hypocrite, but Lash was that right then divorcing his wife to take another woman.
Lash who?
Lash Creech, Mom's cousin from up on Heather.
I didn't know him.
Corey Creech bought your cow that time you made him promise not to kill.
She remembers stuff really good, but I forgot all that. Let's see now.
Is anybody else killed up here?
Not that I know of.
Bill was drowned in the sand fire.
Well, that wasn't a Puritan found out.
Yeah, there's supposed to be probably a lot of murders on this creek that we didn't know about.
It's on telling what went on around, but you didn't know it. We didn't associate.
Just a
with
mile
it.
down there, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Now Dave Lewis, he committed suicide.
Who's David?
Rob Lewis is right down at the foot of the graveyard hill, and that was his
Sue
daughter.
Lewis's-
That was his daughter that was buried down on the graveyard history.
Sue Lewis's husband.
Sue Lewis's husband.
And then she went on to
Are they
have.
related to us?
He committed suicide.
Are they related to us, those Lewises?
No, they was just our neighbors.
You said something about somebody being killed in the Civil War? Your dad's uncle or something?
That was
Yeah.
his uncle Eli in the Civil War. He was wounded. He got shot in the chin with a musket, but he lived over it, and he got back. And Dad's uncle, and he was with his mother. He went up on the hill to try to kill a squirrel. See, the rebels had come in and destroyed all her food, all but some meat she had buried in the ground. And they found him up there where he was.
Where do they live?
They lived over in Lester County. And where I've been going from.
And he'd been out to kill a squirrel.
He was a layway in a squirrel,
Layway?
and they found him up there and killed him. And that's why Dad hated him. He wouldn't vote a Democrat for him.
I didn't know the Democrats and Republicans were the rolling Yankee. Did you, Rick?
Well, Lord, they are. What do you think the South is fighting to get the North for, Dad, Bernie? You never
I
did
sh-
study much.
They sure didn't call them that.
Well, we studied that in history in school, back when we was going to school.
I don't know, I have to read up on that.
And old Al Holcomb was the only rebel that lived on Limeport. And Uncle Si Cornett said he had his bead and his old musket
I read some good stories.
right in the cross of his gallus, and he said he snapped this cap, you know, when I guess you ever seen him, I have. And he said he snapped and snapped and snapped, and he said that gun never would fire. He just want the Lord's will for him to kill on the rebel on Line Parker. We want now to hog him on Line Parker.
In World War I, my dad had to register, but he never had to go. He had to register, he was gonna have to go, but the war started.
So he never did go to any war?
Dad wasn't passed.
He was never in a war.
He had a crippled arm.
Well,
When
he
he was a
don't-
little boy.
He had 3 children too.
Well, they took him in the Second World War, had children. Dad was at a corn shuck and he had his arm up over the door, you know, like just laying up there, and the kids was playing and they pushed him out and it broke his arm in the elbow.
It was
In
never
his
broken.
right elbow, that's why he was left-handed.
I never did know that.
Well,
I
Dad's,
never know my dad had his arm broke.
well, his elbow was bad.
I didn't know he was left-handed.
And it didn't go.
He was right-handed, but he had become left-handed on account of.
And he did. I thought.
Jim and Dad both signed up in the World War II, but neither one of them didn't have to go.
That's called registry.
Well, I've got the cards for the registered here
Yeah.
somewhere.
his